Hello to the pessimistic, optimistic, and everyone in between. My name is Connor Philippi, and welcome back to the Minnesotan Sports Podcast. And we're now getting into week 4 of the 2023 to 24 NFL season. And this is the part of the season where we're starting to kind of develop some tendencies with different teams. We're starting to actually realize what the highs and lows of each team could be. And still time to be jumping to conclusions at this point, like in terms of people saying that for sure this team's going to do this or this team's going to do that. It's all still really up in the air in terms of what could still happen. Without further ado, let's get into some of these predictions for this week, as some of these teams really show different things than what they showed the first couple of weeks of the season. So, to start things off, Lions at Packers, Thursday Night Football, and this is going to be a really good matchup, one that I was hoping wouldn't be close because I was hoping the Lions would do well this year and that the Packers would suck. Unfortunately, Jordan Love, I wouldn't say he's been amazing for the Packers. He's definitely been better than what I was hoping he'd be. I really was hoping the Packers would have a really mediocre season or even a bad season, and that Jordan Love would not be the guy for them. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case so far anyway. Obviously, it's only a few games, and it's not like Jordan Love played lights out football or anything, but he was impressive and he was able to lead a good comeback last week. And as for the Lions, they had one rough loss to a very high scoring Seahawks team. Other than that, they've played good football as well. So I'm going to go with the Lions for this matchup. I don't know. I feel better about the Lions at this stage because they have more. They've carried over more from last season as opposed to the Packers just having a good start to this season. And I feel like I can consistently count on the Lions more than the Packers, which is something I didn't think I would ever say in my life, but I'm now saying this season. But I also just want to will it into existence that Detroit is better than the Packers this year. The Vikings and Panthers matchup, I'm going to be doing a full breakdown of that matchup, and you can watch that tomorrow. It should be coming out on Friday of the breakdown, full, keys to victory for both teams and all that good stuff. But just to spoil a little bit, I do predict the Vikings to win this game and get their first win of the season. More because the Panthers have just looked really rough than it is the Vikings expected to do good. Like, I feel like the Vikings are better than their record suggests. I still don't think they're good enough to kill the Panthers, but I think the Panthers have shown some poor enough football where I can confidently pick the Vikings to win this matchup. And if we lose to the Panthers, then just I'm done. It's over. Pack it up. Season's over. Let's start talking about the future. Falcons and Jaguars, this should be another good matchup between a Jaguars team that has not played well to start off the season, including a really rough loss last week. I mean, Trevor Lawrence, he has not been the main reason why the Jaguars have lost these games, but he is not playing up to his potential right now, and the entire Jags team he's really lethargic. I don't know what's wrong with them right now. And then the Falcons, they had a close game against the Lions last week, up until near the end of the game, but when it really started to get ugly. I forgot to mention this game is the London game, so it'll be at 8:30 a.m. Of course, it's no longer, they used to be able to offer those London games for free so that people could watch those games nice and bright and early. But of course, again, it's another streaming service that's taken the game and we can't watch it anymore. So you have to go to Buffalo Wild Wings when they open to try and catch the end of this game. Otherwise, you're out of luck. Or just watch the live streams on TikTok. That's what I've been doing. But I say this is a tough one. I think the Jaguars are going to have a resurgent game. People are laying into them a little too much. They had an impressive season last year, a lot of growth, and I just don't see the Jags going back down to irrelevancy again this year. I think they're going to make a statement in this game in London in front of, London's always been a home to the Jaguars, so I think that'll also work in their favor. I say the Jags win this game. It'll be close because the Falcons have been playing well this year. I think this is the week where we see what the Jaguars can really be this season. Now for a very anticipated matchup between the Dolphins and the Bills. The Bills have been playing much better football ever since that Week 1 loss to the Jets. Josh Allen seems to really be taking things on his own shoulders. The Dolphins, though, have been absolutely tearing the other team apart, including a 70-20 victory against the Broncos last week. Shout out to Sean Payton, who has one of the worst coaching jobs in the history of the league now. Look in the mirror and ask yourself that. If you can't tell, I don't like Sean Payton. But Bills and Dolphins, a tough matchup here, and I have to ride with the Dolphins until I see something else from them. This Dolphins team has not just been good; they have been dominant. And if you've been dominating every single opponent you've played, well, I guess the Dolphins Patriots game wasn't very close, or was pretty close. But other than that, if you've been dominating opponents week to week, and you're 3-0, you can't pick against them until they lose a game. So it's nothing against the Bills, even though the Bills are technically favored by 2.5 to win this game, according to the odds and the betting. But I got to go with the Dolphins until they prove otherwise, that they're not, worth picking. Broncos at Bears. Now this is one where, man, this might be one of the worst games we will watch all season long. I have to say that. Broncos again, Sean Payton doing a horrible job so far as head coach, and this whole team just looking bad. There's no other way to put it. They're missing tackles. They are not getting open on offense. No one is doing their part right now for the Broncos. As for the Bears, the Bears are in serious, crisis mode right now with Justin Fields not being able to carry this team on his back. Russell Wilson has more passing yards than Justin Fields does this season. This whole Bears team has just been bad. Not only have they lost every game, they've been blown out almost every game so far this year. I'm going to say, man, it's tough. I'm going to say the Bears win the game. It's really a toss-up because these two teams have just been playing such bad football. But give me the Bears at home. It's easy for me to root against Sean Payton, so give me the Bears. I just feel like they might have a decent week against this Broncos team that just gave up 70 points. I feel like that's pretty fair for me to say. Ravens at Browns. This should also be an interesting matchup. The Browns' defense has just been tearing other teams apart. Their defensive line has been one of the best in the league so far this year. The Ravens have been winning games through the run game and through getting turnovers when they need turnovers. They had a really rough loss last week, though, against a team they really should have beat, so they're coming off with some negative momentum. I don't know who to pick here. I got to go with the Ravens just because you got to feel like Lamar Jackson will turn it around. It's funny because Lamar Jackson has less passing yards than Deshaun Watson this year, which is crazy because Watson has less than 700. So both of these players are averaging just a little bit more than 200 yards per game. But also, Lamar Jackson is leading rushing for any of these teams combined for 193 yards on the ground and 2 touchdowns, which is crazy. So he still remains a dual threat quarterback who can also run the ball. I got to go with the Ravens here. I feel like the Browns are not going to stay 2-1 for very long. I don't think they're going to stay above 500 for very long. I don't really trust the Browns very far this year, especially with the way Deshaun Watson's been playing. 4 TDs, 2 interceptions so far this season. Bengals at Titans. The Titans are looking rough again. They had that impressive win at the beginning of the season. Other than that, this is the kind of game. The Bengals won against the Rams. It was way closer than it should have been. Obviously, we have to continue to look at Joe Burrow. Is he going to continue to play? Is he not? We'll have to see. But it's going to be a tough matchup between these two teams. The really struggling Bengals offense going up against a good Titans defense, which has basically no offense. I got to go with the Bengals here, though. I think this is the football gods have really handed the Bengals a couple winnable games for them to try and get right and improve. And it all depends on if Joe Burrow can play. Because if Joe Burrow can play and if he gets up to 100%, we know Joe Burrow is going to start to look like Joe Burrow again. It's not going to stay that way for very long. Clearly, it's due to his injuries that he's struggling that much. You don't just see a quarterback completely fail to perform like that just out of the blue. So I got to go with the Bengals for this matchup. Next, we have Rams at Colts, and I'm honestly pretty impressed with Stafford and the way he's performed so far this year. The game against the Bengals on Monday night wasn't the greatest, but this Rams team has actually performed pretty well. Anthony Richardson and the Colts have really struggled. Zach Moss leading rushing for both of these teams, though. So it's another game between two teams where I feel like The Colts, I mean, I can't believe they're 2-1 right now, but it's also like they haven't played like they deserve to be 2-1. And the Rams honestly could be 2-1 right now. They've honestly played some impressive football. I don't expect it to last, but I mean, you got to hand it to them. So I feel like I got to go with the Rams here. The Colts just have too many unanswered questions. The Rams at least have some, solid factors in their game, including Matthew Stafford, who's having a little bit of a resurgence this year. He has been leading the team well. It's just those interceptions that are going to kill the Rams over time. But for now, I got to go with the Rams over the Colts. Buccaneers and Saints, I didn't expect this to be a matchup between two 2-1 teams. I expected maybe this from the Saints, but the Bucs honestly have been playing pretty well. Chris Olave might be the deciding factor for this team. It's just a matter of what's going on with Derek Carr, and it's tough because the Saints struggled so much without Carr that it's really tough to decipher what this season's going to be like for the Saints. That being said, I've got a feeling that even Taysom Hill will be enough to get them past the Bucs. Yes, they impressively won a couple games, but I don't know. I feel like the Bucs are due to start to implode pretty soon. And I believe in the Saints defense. I also believe that this passing core for the Saints can get them past the Bucs, even if Derek Carr doesn't play. So give me the Saints in this matchup. Commanders at Eagles. I mean, the Eagles are a team where I have to pick them until they lose. They started off kind of slow in the season. I think they're starting to ramp it up a little bit more now. AJ Brown leading both teams right now with 239 yards on 20 receptions. I just feel like it's another one of those teams where both sides of the football are so good. Once they start playing their best football, they're going to be even better. And if you're playing what you consider your B-minus football and you've won that many games so far, I mean, you got to keep picking them until they lose. So Texans and Steelers, Texans hosting the Steelers. I think the Steelers will win this one. I think it's pretty safe to say. CJ Stroud has actually played very good, having a great breakout rookie season. But the Steelers defense, I mean, this is going to be the toughest defense Stroud has played against in his career so far. I feel like this is the week where Stroud gets his first interception. So far, he has 4 TDs with no turnovers. I don't know. I feel like this is just going to be a rough week for Stroud. The Steelers' defense is no joke. And I think the Steelers will pick up their 3rd win of the season. Raiders at Chargers. Herbert, I mean, he showed why he's still an elite level quarterback. I think he's still on that fringe between really good and elite right now. And I think if he keeps playing this season like he did against the Vikings, I know the Vikings don't have a great defense, but I mean, he tore them up. He did everything he needed to do to win that game, for throwing for 400 yards nearly. I mean, he had a phenomenal game against the Vikings. And this rushing attack continues to be great. I mean, I got to pick the Chargers over the Raiders, even though both teams are sitting at 1-2. I feel like the Chargers are still a mile ahead of the Raiders. Patriots at Cowboys. Man, the Cowboys had a really rough matchup last week. And this might be a little more of a defensive matchup between two teams. I mean, Mac Jones is leading both of these teams in passing. That says what kind of a season Dak Prescott has had so far. But Tony Pollard has made up for that by rushing for almost 300 yards across 3 games. So that's going to be the major factor for the Cowboys. I think they get this job done in the rushing game. I think it'll be a score similar to like a 21-17. It'll be a low-scoring defensive battle. I say the Cowboys win by kind of a slim margin. Cardinals at 49ers. Give me the 49ers. I know the Cardinals have not played quite as bad as they thought they'd play. Impressive win against the Cowboys. Dobbs has honestly been pretty good, but the 49ers have been the best team in football all year long so far. I don't think that's going to stop anytime soon. Easiest pick of the day, 49ers over Cardinals. And then we've got the Chiefs at the Jets for Sunday Night Football, and this is one I feel like is not hard to deliberate on. The Chiefs had a rough start to the season. They still are continuing to struggle offensively, but I think they're really going to turn it around. I mean, Patrick Mahomes has only thrown for 803 yards across 3 games, still able to get 2-1 out of it though. And the Jets without Rodgers are just a very different team. I mean, imagine how good of a game this would have been if Rodgers was in the game. I think the Chiefs will win this game. I don't see the Jets getting close with Zach Wilson. I hate to say it, but he's just, even with Garrett Wilson, as well as he's played this season, I just can't pick the Jets. And then finally, we have the Seahawks at the Giants. This is going to be an interesting game. The line is dead even between these two teams, and I think it makes sense because the Seahawks did have one really bad game at the beginning of the season where they lost to the Rams in really rough fashion. It wasn't even close. And the Giants, I mean, they had one come from behind win this season, and the rest of the games, I mean, they really have not played well. But I don't know, like I going into the season, I felt like the Giants were going to be a better team than the Seahawks, and I still think they have the potential to do that. But their offense has just stalled so much. I'm gonna say the Seahawks win this game by a pretty close score. I think the Giants might take the lead early, and then the Seahawks might come storming back. I just feel like you got to trust the hotter offense so far, and honestly, the Seahawks offense also hasn't been great, but I mean, this Giants offense has just stalled so much. I feel like I have to see them get a good offensive breakout type of game before I can trust them again to perform and to win more games. So didn't think I'd be predicting the Giants to fall to 1-3 at this point in the season, but here we are. Seahawks improved to 3-1. So let me know in the comments what you think. If there are picks and predictions you don't agree with, this is kind of getting to the point where you're starting to kind of see the makeup of these teams, but also, like I said, anything could happen. There's still 13 games or 14 games, including these games, left to play in the season. So there's a lot of exciting football left to be played. But again, let me know your opinions in the comments. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on the flip side.